Bring this conversation home now. We've talked about the global context. Let's see how this is translated into the South African environment. We're starting with the largest of the South African groups, that's Tsogo Sun, which of course owns the Southern Sun hotel chain, as well as a number of gaming venues, particularly in the Gauteng area. So here we're talking about Montecasino, which I think people in Johannesburg area are well aware of, in the Four Ways area. They also own the Gold Reef City property, as well as the Silver Sands one, I think it's called, or Silver Star rather, out on the western side of Gauteng. Its dominant shareholder is HCI. It used to be HCI and SAB Miller, but SAB Miller has exited this investment. It was partly bought back. So now we have HCI, which of course is an empowerment group. Johnny Copeland and previously Marcel Golding listed as well, and they own 47% of the shares. Market capitalization, 24.4 billion rand, so sizable in the All 40. A price to earnings ratio of 13.47 and a dividend yield of 3.82. Is it still in the All 40?
No, I don't think so. I think
kicked out.
I think it's out.
34 is not quite big enough, so it kind of made a brief entry and then got overlapped by something.
Yeah, okay. I think we had PSG and all that coming in recently, and then also dropping out. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
plead
so
the fifth there.
Bit of a musical chairs at the bottom of the All 40. But in any event, this is a sizable play, and it sort of emerged after the Southern Sun assets were brought into a listed entity using the Gold Reef shell.
Yeah. So I mean, as you know, you spoke about Montecasino, probably the jewel of the crown. That's responsible for anywhere close to 30% of group profit. So that's big, continuing to grow there. 15,000 rooms in the group, not shabby by any means, and a very, very strong presence in Gauteng.
So just to be clear, the rooms that we're talking about, it's the Intercontinental Hotel, it's all the Garden Court hotels, it's properties in Durban like the Elangeni and the Maharani.
Correct, Palazzo in Montecasino.
And it's also all of the Holiday Inn chains, right? Yeah. So it's all of these different brands.
And the Formula One, which I think is something else now.
So you add all of that up, and of course it's not just in South Africa. We're also talking about properties like the Ikoyi, which is in Nigeria. I'm consulting my notes here. And then also stuff in Mozambique, right? Which they own. Yeah.
So what these guys are trying to do is be real destinations. So they want you to take you and your family and go watch your movies, go have dinner, go take the kids and entertain them. And if you have a little flurry on the side, so be it, because that's where the rump of their earnings come. So they really have become these destination type hubs, and they do well at that. The problem is the capital it takes to run these things, the input costs. I mean, you would think of what their utility bills, the labor, the refurbishments that they spend money on. It takes a lot of money to keep the lights on in these things.
They do have capital partners in some cases. Like sometimes you might have investors, property funds, big life insurers that own some of the buildings that are then operated by Tsogo. Although I noticed that they had been making tracks to buy out Hospitality, which is a listed group that in turn had invested in these kinds of facilities. So it seems like a bit of a mixed bag. They are partly a hotel operator, but they're partly a little bit of the characteristic of a property holding entity because of the NAV underpin, which does give you something. Okay, future growth prospects. I assume that what's going on right now is that, notwithstanding the fact that occupancies are sort of okay, there's a concern on two folds. Firstly, business travel is a little bit muted still. And secondly, the consumer here in South Africa is not really necessarily in the best shape. The high-end, middle income and upper income South Africans might be feeling a bit ambivalent about going to the casinos on the weekend and blowing through thousands and thousands of rands on the tables.
Yeah, I think what you've got here is a classic case of oversupply. There's a lot of these type of resorts and gaming places around, particularly with the gear up to the 2010 World Cup. And just a really weak demand at the moment with the economic environment. So I think there's a bit of a mismatch there.
Let's look at the share chart, because that often reveals all we've been talking about. This is a 5-year picture. So it really kind of emerged and everybody got excited about the group because of the sense of what the scale of the operations was. The SAB coming out, I think, was an F+. But it has gone off the boil a little bit recently. Most recent news, though, which was of interest to me, is that they're buying a 20% stake in this Grand West Casino, which is a Sun International property. They had tried to buy a higher portion, which is kind of weird. So it's the two competitive companies, the two majors
owning the same asset.
What's that about?
Yeah, and look, that's Sun's biggest asset. It's equivalent to Sun owning some of Montecasino, if you could look at it that way. Yeah, look, I don't understand. I guess they pull some synergies out of operating it, and
it was partly because also in the Western Cape, it's the major dominant metropolitan area license. There isn't another one.
No.
And instead of building another, they decided that they would collaborate. But the competition authority said, no, you can't really own this thing together.
Yep.
So they said, well, maybe if we do a deal where we only buy a 20% stake, we won't be seen to have any kind of management control.
Yeah, which is what went
Which
through.
is
True. The
probably
competition authorities look closely at these businesses. Yeah.
Okay, so there from the chart you can see a little bit under pressure, but as far as Marcel van Oorlog and his team, they continue to roll the thing forward. They can access as much debt as would be useful. They're doing a lot of upgrades, improvement, investments. So is it just a matter of waiting for a sort of better economic climate?
Yeah, I think
I guess is where I'm going
the
to.
management team good financial management in that regard. I think if we get an uptick in the economy, they're probably best positioned. I'm going to go hot here.
I think I'm going to go hot too, because it's quality all the way through. The NAV underpin is there.
Correct.
It just seems to me that it's one of those sectors of the market people have turned a bit negative on. Okay, good. Right, so we've got one hot in the bag.